Today I want to share with you the value of this prophetic timeline that has come to us in the book of First Enoch, chapters 91 and 93. I have never been one, Joyce, to see the glass as being half full. You know, some people are optimistic naturally, and they see a glass of fluid and they see it half full.
That's right.
I've always seen it as half empty.
That's right.
And Ed, I don't know if it's because I'm the oldest of an interracial marriage and I'm half white and half black. Born in 1956, Black power movement and civil rights all unfolding in the 60s. But being the oldest and not having no older brother, even though Ed 5 years younger than me,
That's right.
he was tough as nails and ready to defend me. He just was in kindergarten when I was getting bullied. But Scott Carter, I didn't know from day to day as I'm going to school, as all of this Black power stuff was unfolding, how this was going to work for me. And so I really have value in knowing what's going to happen before it's happened. I learned at an early age at that time to pray for protection. I don't know, Ed, our parents were just oblivious. Now, they married in 1951. In 18 states in this country, their marriage was not legal.
Right.
And in the case of Virginia versus Loving, in the Supreme Court in the 60s, the argument that Virginia used against biracial or interracial marriages is because the children would be, BASTARD, And so, I have value in knowing the end from the beginning. And so I want to deal with that today because we're entering into a new season,
That's right.
2025.
Yes. Yeah, mercy.
I did Sister Bundy's asking prayer for President Trump and his administration, and others may be praying for that as well.
Yes.
But we're heading for uncharted waters.
That's right. Yes.
And so I'm concerned about us here
Amen.
and what we're learning and what we're doing
right.
and what other people think.
Amen.
That's what they think and what they feel. So that's what the message is today. If I had a title, Minister Roselle, if I had a title, the title would be, "When Shall These Things Be?"
Yeah, mercy.
Turn to Matthew 24. And then we're going to go to the book of Daniel chapter 8. Matthew chapter 24. Jesus is coming to the close of his earthly ministry. He's soon to die, and he's leaving the temple for the last time. In verse 37 of 23, Jesus said, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing." Verse 38, Jesus said, "See, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you you will not see me again until you say, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Chapter 24, verse 1, as Jesus came out of the temple and was going away, his disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. Then he asked them, you see all these, do you not? Truly I tell you, not one stone will be left here upon another. All will be thrown down. Verse 3 says, and while he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately saying, tell us, when will this be?
That's right.
This Olivet discourse is also recorded for us in Mark chapter 13, as well as Luke chapter 21. Jesus had just foretold the destruction of the temple. He's just foretold the destruction of Jerusalem. In chapter 21 of this discourse, he explains to them, when you see the army surround Jerusalem,
That's right.
know that its desolation is nigh. He then added, and said to them that when this takes place, there would be famine and pestilence and all various kinds of signs. And then he said that his people of the southern kingdom of Judah would be dispersed and taken captive unto all the nations. They would not return to Jerusalem until the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled.
That's right.
The reason, my brothers and sisters, when you read in scripture as it relates to this time, and it's referred to as the last days, the time of the end, the time of wrath, the latter time. Why is the scriptures referring to this time, the destruction of Jerusalem, as the time of the end, the last days? Because, Audrey, the temple is going to be destroyed, and the remnant of the people of God shall be no more.
That's right.
Until the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled.
Yes, sir.
For the people of God, as they approach this event, for them, this is the last days. The question they asked him, Joyce, was this: when shall this be? When is this event that you're foretelling going to take place? And after enumerating signs, and I'm in verse 34 of Matthew 24, Jesus said, truly I tell you, in response to your question, when will this be? This generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place.
That's right.
Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Sabrina, they said, when will the event that you just told us take place? His response was, truly I tell you, this generation shall not pass. In all of what I've told you in relationship to Jerusalem and the temple will happen. He said, heaven and earth might pass away. My word will not pass away. He said, Ed, you can take this to the bank.
That's right.
When is this going to happen, Lord? Within a prophetic generation. And they understood, Sabrina, that a generation for them prophetically was 40 years.
That's right.
Jesus uttered this prophecy about the temple in the year 30 AD. And historically, it's recorded. Exactly 40 years later, in 70 AD,
Right.
the temple was destroyed, and not one stone shall be left upon another. It was all torn down.
Yeah, verse.
Turn with me to Daniel 8. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Daniel chapter 8. We're going to be in a little of 9 and one of 10, little in 10, and then I'm going to let you go. But I want you to understand the value, Elder Finley, of this timeline. And why this is the foundation for understanding all prophecy
Right.
and God's way of answering the question as we study prophecy. When shall these things be? Daniel, in chapter 8, has had his second vision. His first vision, Sister Bundy, was in Daniel chapter 7. This second vision that Daniel has in chapter 8 is taking place in the third year of King Belshazzar. It's important that we note when this vision takes place. All these visions in 8, 9, 10, 11 is telling you when certain kings are reigning so to give you some context. Belshazzar is ruling Babylon. He's ruled for 3 years when Daniel has this vision. Historically, we know that Belshazzar ruled for 13 years. So this is early in his reign. Babylon is still in power. So now, Audrey, Daniel has this vision. He sees a ram that has 2 horns. One horn is higher than the other. The latter horn is the more powerful, and it's coming from the west, and it's sweeping across the face of the earth as Daniel is looking at this. This is an earthly power that he's witnessing. And as he sees the ram with these 2 horns sweeping across the earth with power and force, he sees a goat. And it has a horn between its eyes. And this goat he sees also represents an earthly power, and it comes charging towards the ram and crushes the ram. It's more powerful than the ram was. And as Daniel is watching this take place, the horn of the goat, and horns represent kings, is broken.
Right.
And when that horn between his eyes is broken, he sees 4 horns arise.
That's right.
And as he's watching, as these 4 horns that represent kings arise, he sees a little horn emerge from one of the 4 horns. And this little horn that he sees begins to desecrate and assault the sanctuary of God on earth and begin to persecute God's people. As he's watching all of this, he hears a voice speak to another holy one, and a question is asked in relationship specifically to the assault on the sanctuary.
That's
And the
right.
question is, and be real clear, the question is, once the little horn begins this assault on the earthly sanctuary, how long until it stops?
Yeah, verse.
Let's read that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Daniel 8, verse 13. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to the one that spoke, for how long is this vision concerning the regular burnt offering, the transgression that makes desolate, and the giving over of the sanctuary and the host to be trampled? Verse 14 says, and he answered him, for 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary shall be restored to its rightful place. The evenings and mornings are the sacrifices. Right. The questions asked David Richard, once this assault by this little horn that comes from the divided kingdom of this goat, once it begins, how long is it going to last? That's right. And the response is, after 2,300 evening and morning sacrifices, then the sanctuary and its services will be restored. In the sanctuary services, 2 times a day, evening and morning, are burnt offerings, sacrifices. And so the time, once the assault begins, till when it concludes, Roselle, is 1,150 days. Now go to verse 15. When Daniel, had seen the vision, he said, I tried to understand it. Then someone appeared standing before me, having the appearance of a man, and I heard a human voice by the Uli calling, Gabriel, help this man understand the vision. That's right. So now, Ed, one of the four, Gabriel, comes to help Daniel understand what he can't understand. Be clear, Elder Finley. This is Gabriel. This one of the big four. That's right. And whatever voice was talking to him was over him. It said, Gabriel, this is my man Daniel. This is a prophet. Make him understand the vision. Verse 19, Gabriel's now speaking. He said, listen, and I will tell you what will take place later in the period of wrath, for it refers to the appointed time of the end. Not now, beloved, the time of the end of God's people, when the sanctuary ultimately will be destroyed after the rejection of our forefathers of Christ. He said, as for the ram that you saw with the 2 horns, these are the kings of Media and Persia. The male goat is the king of Greece, and the great horn between its eyes is the first king. You doing good, Gabriel. This ain't hard. As for the horn that was broken, in place of which 4 others arose, 4 kingdoms shall arise from his nation, but not with his power. And at the end of their rule, when the transgressions have reached their full measure, it's the little horn, the king of bold countenance shall arise, skilled in intrigue. He shall go strong in power, shall cause fearful destruction, and shall succeed in what he does. He shall destroy the powerful and the people of the holy ones. By his cunning he shall make deceit prosper under his hand. In his own mind he shall be great. Without warning he shall destroy many, and shall even rise up against the prince of princes. But he shall be broken, and not by human hands. The vision of the evenings and the mornings that has been told is true. As for you, seal up the vision, for it refers to many days from now. So I, Daniel, was overcome and lay sick for some days. Then I arose and went about the king's business. But I was dismayed by the vision and did not understand it. Gabriel is told, make the man Daniel understand the vision.
Yes, sir.
Gabriel is explaining the vision that Daniel had in detail. The ram with two horns is Media in Persian. The horns are its two kings. Historically, Sister Christy, we know that the shorter of the horns is Darius of Media, who reigned before Cyrus. The latter horn is the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great. We've talked about that.
That's right.
The goat that comes, it overtakes the ram, is the kingdom that succeeds Persia. It's Greece. The horn between the sides is the first king. It's Alexander the Great. When Alexander the Great dies, the kingdom is divided amongst his four generals. And then from one of the four generals, Ed, there comes another horn that begins to assault God's temple, his sanctuary, and oppress his people. This is during the reign of the divided Greek Empire. Historically, Elder Finley, every Hebrew scholar and every Christian scholar that has any understanding about history knows that the little horn that emerges from the divided Greek Empire is Antiochus Epiphanes.
That's right.
The Seleucid ruler from Syria.
Yes.
It's interesting, Sister Bundy, that you hear. The only church that don't recognize who the little horn is in Daniel chapter 8, according with all history, all historians, all theologians, Hebrew or Christian, is the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They're the only ones confused about that. And then he says that the vision of the evening and mornings is true. When the question is asked, once this assault starts, how long until the sanctuary and its services are restored? Said after 2,300 evening and morning sacrifices, then it will be restored. That's 1,150 days.
That's right.
Around 3 years. And it says, Daniel heard this, and he was dismayed. He said, I did the king's business, I lay sick. He said, but I did not understand the vision. How can he not understand the vision? What about the vision did he not understand? Go to Daniel chapter 9. Y'all with me? I got your attention? Daniel chapter 9, verse 1. In the first year of Darius, son of Ahasuerus, thank you, Elder.
Yes.
By birth a Mede, who became king over the realm of the Chaldeans. And you know, I kind of miss this, Elder Carter. And this is significant. Now, Darius is the first king in the vision. He's of Media. But when it's talking about his reign here, he was reigning over the Chaldeans, which means even though Belshazzar has fallen, Darius is ruling over Babylon.
That's right.
It says, I, Daniel, perceived in the books the number of years that according to the word of the Lord to the prophet Jeremiah must be fulfilled for the devastation of Jerusalem, namely 70 years. So now, Sabrina, Belshazzar, when Daniel has this vision in his third year in chapter 8, he's dead. Darius of Media is now ruling. Daniel's thinking, Sister Bree Love, How come we ain't free?
That's right.
How come we have not gone back to Jerusalem, according to the prophet Jeremiah, to rebuild the temple and to rebuild Jerusalem?
Right.
So now he's going to check the books. He like us here in the One Room Church. He loves,
That's right.
I love prophecy. And so he said, now to check the books, I needed to be clear. The period of Babylonian rule is 70 years. He starts to calculate, and they ain't reached 70 years yet. So he gets it. He said, I wasn't clear. How come we ain't went back? He said, I've checked Jeremiah's books. The period is 70 years. We ain't reached 70 years, so, no problem. But then he begins to pray, Pat Reeves. And he's confessing his sins, the sins of the people, and the sins of the Father. This is a long prayer.
Right.
Very humble prayer. But he ain't praying about the captivity period. He didn't figure that out. I'm not praying about that.
Right.
I love prophecy. I'm a prophet myself. Jeremiah was before me. Me and Ezekiel came after that. It's 70 years. We at around year 67, 68. We got a couple more years to go. He's good. He ain't got no problem. That ain't what he's praying about now. So now follow me. Please, my God, follow me. Belshazzar has reigned for 13 years.
That's right.
He dead. Darius of Media is now ruling. Daniel has this vision that we read in chapter 8 about the ram and the goat and the persecutor. That's all of that. That's all yet going to take place in the future. But Darius is now ruling. He didn't understand the vision. Gabriel did his best. He gave him details, Ed. He did not understand the vision. Daniel in 9 is praying this awesome prayer. But it ain't about the captivity period. Because he had already figured it out, huh? I checked Jeremiah.
That's right.
Darius is ruling, but the 70 years ain't up. We got 2-3 more years to go. He ain't praying about that. What is Daniel praying about? What could Daniel possibly be praying about?
That's right.
See, I told y'all, it's just personal. You ever forget the name of a movie, or you trying to remember somebody, you forget the name, it just escapes you, and you're trying to tell somebody about it, but you can't remember it right there. It's happening more and more, Sabrina, as I've gotten older. And that thing bothers you. It bothers you that you can't remember. It's right on the tip of your tongue. I mean, I've told this story before. I've watched this. Like, how come I can't remember it? And it just gnaws, and it just bothers you. And you can't let that thing go. I told Elder Carter this week, that's kind of how I am about this. See, I can't let it go.
That's right.
Now, and I ain't talking about just now. I'm not talking. See, I could let this go.
That's right.
But what this really means, what I'm trying to understand, see, the glass is half full or half empty. Depends how you're looking at it. And I'm trying to understand this thing. And I can't let it go. And so here you are, Daniel, way in chapter 8, when Belshazzar is in his 3rd year, having this vision. Gabriel comes, is told, make him understand it. This is the one that in chapter 2 of Daniel was told that Nebuchadnezzar, who had a dream, is going to kill all of the wise men in Babylon unless they could tell him the dream. What made it complicated, Sabrina, was that Nebuchadnezzar can't remember the dream. Because the wise men said, tell us the dream, O king, and we'll tell you the interpretation.
That's right.
Nebuchadnezzar ain't no fool. He said, no, I don't trust y'all. If y'all wise men and so highly honored,
Right.
y'all all elders, y'all so highly honored. Nebuchadnezzar said, tell me what I dreamed, and I'll know your interpretation is correct.
That's right.
And so the Most High God comes to Daniel, tells him what Nebuchadnezzar's dreams, and then tells him the interpretation. This is Daniel. And he's highly honored in the king of Babylon. Now Daniel has his own dream, his own vision. Gabriel comes and explains it to him, and he cannot understand the vision. See, I'm asking y'all this rhetorical question. How could he not understand the vision?
That's right.
And so now we in chapter 9, this 10 years later, he can't let it go. He ain't praying about the Babylonian captivity period because he done went to Jeremiah's books. He knows it's 70 years. We got 2-3 years more to go. He's not praying about that. What are you praying for? So now go to verse 20. Let me know when you're there. He said, while I was speaking and was praying, confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God on behalf of the holy mountain of my God, while I was speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, whom I had seen before in a vision, talking about chapter 8, he came to me in swift flight at the time of the evening sacrifice. He came and said to me, Daniel, I have now come out to give you wisdom and understanding. At the beginning of your supplication, a word went out, and I've come to declare it, for you are greatly beloved. So consider the word and understand the vision.
Right.
What vision? The vision in chapter 8 that he didn't understand. 10 years that went by. He don't understand the vision. And now he's praying, confessing his sins and the sins of Israel. And now Gabriel comes back, the one that he saw in the vision in chapter 8. And he said, I've now come to give you understanding.
Right.
I'm now going to make it even more clear. Because why didn't he understand it? This is my point to all of what I'm saying. And the importance of this timeline. What Daniel didn't understand was not the vision itself. What he didn't understand was the time of the vision, what these events were going to be as it related to the people of God, and when were they going to take place. The question was, Roselle, when will these things be? He was not told. He saw the ram. He saw the goat. He knew it was Midian. He knew it was Greece. He knew it was Persia. He understood where the persecuting power was going to come from. He understood as it related to the sanctuary. Once the sanctuary begins to be assaulted, how long will it last?
Right.
1,150 days. But it didn't answer the question, when shall these things be?
Yeah.
Sitting up here talking about Revelation, talking about this and what y'all think it means. If you can't answer the question, when shall these things be? You ought not have nothing to say.
Yes, sir.
You just talking.
Yes, sir.
You telling me what's going to happen. That's clear.
That's right.
That's not what Daniel didn't understand. He understood what was going to happen.
That's right.
He didn't understand when it was going to happen. And because of that, Elder Finley, He did not understand the vision. The Bible is writings written by prophets and scholars connected to the people of God. It was written to the people of God. It was written for the people of God. And if you can't connect this to the people of God as it relates to themselves, and when shall these things be? You just a bunch of hot air. You talking loud, saying nothing. The reason Daniel didn't understand the vision, is he didn't understand when it was going to take place as it relates to the people of God. And so now Gabriel comes back 10 years later. Daniel's praying. And he said, I've come to give you understanding of the vision. Are you listening to me?
Yes, sir.
So now here it comes, Kristen. Verse 24. Hermes telling them when. 70 weeks I decree for your people and your holy city to finish the transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal both vision and prophet, and to anoint the most holy. When we talk about Daniel, Gabriel, know therefore and understand from the time that the word went out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the time of the anointed prince, there shall be 7 weeks. And for 62 weeks there shall be built again with streets and moats, but in a troubled time. And after the 62 weeks, an anointed one shall be cut off and shall have nothing, and the troops of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Its end shall come with a flood, and to the end there shall be war. Desolations are decreed. He shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week, and for half a week he shall make sacrifice and offering season, and their place shall be an abomination. The desolation and the decreed end is poured out upon the desolator. I'm not trying to get us to understand. We're going to study all this because everything you've been taught in relation to this prophecy is wrong.
That's right.
It's all wrong. But now Daniel's praying, Sabrina, I've come to give you understanding of when these things shall be. In the verse 24, he goes right in. 70 weeks I determined upon thy people. When does it start, Gabriel? Know therefore for the decree to restore and rebuild. He's telling them when. Not just telling them what. He's telling them when. And in this calendar of Enoch, you have 10 700-year distinct periods. And it's telling you what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. Are you listening to me? But beloved, I'm serious about this. We listening to a bunch of nothing. Commentators, theologians, scholars, making up stuff that don't align with none of this. And we believe in it. If you don't understand who this is talking to, who this is written by, who this is written to, you lost. You're applying an interpretation and you don't know what this is saying. Daniel didn't understand it, not because he didn't know what the ram was, not because he didn't know who the goat was. He knew the earthly sanctuary is going to be trodden underfoot. He understood all of that. What he didn't understand was when shall these things be? That's right. And when Gabriel comes back 9 years later, and in verse 24, starts to chart the time clock, Renee. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people. Know therefore from the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. He's telling you when the clock starts. Now go to chapter 10.